My name is Wendy Bendoni. I'm a professor of marketing and fashion marketing in the School of Business. And this presentation is on my sabbatical last spring, which I think we all know took a little bit of a turn. So what I wanted to share with you is basically what I was up to. Originally, I was going to work on a textbook that I was very excited about with a researcher that I've wanted to work with for some time. But unfortunately, right when we started, we decided to put a push date as soon as we discovered everything that was happening in the world. So this will be continued. So then I also got some amazing opportunities. Part of what I like to try to do is, Kate, I loved your presentation, is tie creative and technology together instead of segregating them in different areas, like putting them together. So a lot of things that I moderate or participate in have that kind of context to it. So I was really excited. Dell Technologies was bringing me on to work about designing for the future at South by Southwest, and then Baselworld invited me also to talk about new environments with like augmented reality and shopping experiences. Then also I worked on some chapters since I wasn't going to be working on the book. So I worked on a chapter on global strategies and marketing for luxury brands. And those that don't know anything about my research, I heavily researched the luxury watch market. So in Switzerland, I belong to a bunch of different associations in regards to kind of updating the watch industry. So then another part of what I decided to do, in case you didn't know, a couple years ago, I decided to go back and get a doctorate because I don't really have anything else to do. So I love it. I love being a student. I love being on the other side and ask tons of questions. I'm definitely that student. And my area of focus is on the digital culture, understanding not just how many people like something or how they follow, but really understanding more of a ethnography approach on it. So that is also something that I worked on. And then after doing that, I started realizing there was some ethical issues with the way marketers were collecting data. So I also joined a group that just basically started, I think we officially launched in July, but it's Data Ethics for All. And I'll tell you a little bit about that too. All right, so the first thing was my moderating luxury technology events. So I have to be honest, I put a lot of work. I had an amazing panel. I was so excited. We had all these pre-meetings, and then South by Southwest got canceled. So I'm putting it up here because I was just so excited. And even though I didn't get to actually moderate, I did get to know and work on my kind of expand my reach for future research, everything from Xbox to Microsoft to Dell Technologies and their digital design department, which was really exciting. And then on top of that, also Baselworld got canceled a week before I was supposed to leave. I got invited to talk about technology and creative industry and talk about how we can create a new space for shopping. And Baselworld, just in case you didn't know, it's 45 countries are represented. It's jewelry and high-end watches. My area was going to be in the luxury watch section. So this didn't happen, but what did happen was my publishing work. So once again, as I said before, I do a lot of focus on luxury watch industry and the consumer and how the consumer has evolved. So for the last, I would say, 5 years, I've conducted research alongside one of my research partners from the University of Zurich, as well as Nachantal. And I bring the social data, social media part into it, and then they bring the attributes of why do people buy luxury watches. So this was a presentation that I did in December. And then what we did at the beginning of the year is clean up, start to look at new things we wanted to add. And then we went ahead and this was published in August 2020. So I am the only English contribution to this textbook, but it's filled with lots of information. And it really had to do with my long drive for my research, which is understanding the consumer online. Not necessarily, for this research, we did a survey. So I collaborated with a blogger on watches. So unlike a lot of other industries, the luxury watch industry really only has 7 main bloggers. Like other than that, there's not a lot of them. So what was amazing about this is a Blog to Watches blog enabled me to do a survey. So I actually received 1,200 responses to a 32 question survey. So I have enough data to last me some time right now. But for this particular research, what happened was I started pinpointing new things that were concerned to this audience. And one of it was that the marketing was not aligning with what their own values were. So through that, I went through and went through the survey to find out, did it have to do with age? Did it have to do with, the nostalgia? Did it have to do with income? And after kind of going through this, then what I did is I tied in what we call social listening. So it's part of like AI, machine learning, and using technology to basically start to segregate different audiences. So within a Blog to Watch audience, I could start to pinpoint who was the key people that I wanted to listen to and the groups that I wanted to listen to, and do some data mining. So with that, it starts to give me a persona of who this person is or who these groups are. And then from that, I can start to cluster them together by what other brands do they follow. If it was a brand like IWC, which is a high-end watch brand, I could start to see that they were interested in certain types of journalists. And this was really interesting, but the thing was, it was still missing information. I mean, it was a great paper, but what I really wanted to do was find out more about what ties them together. So I used 2 different types of segmentations. I used affinity analysis and a cluster analysis to kind of try to understand them and see these different clusters, how they aligned with the different watch brands. So after this research, I confirmed part of my doctoral study was that I needed to learn more about, how can we capture this information online and ethically, obviously. So last year I worked on a chapter. The book is called Developing Successful Global Strategies for Marketing Luxury Brands. And my contribution is business intelligence, discovering the evolving luxury consumer through social data. I collaborated with 2 different partners, and the book's coming out in March. I'm excited. And the research went off of how do we as marketers traditionally collect data, and how are the new ways and new types of data that we should be looking at. So as we start to go through this, my abstract was taking the raw data and then transforming it all the way to more of like an e-tribe and understanding them as a culture. So I think I'm about out of time, but this goes more into that type of research. And then as far as the research that I continued doing since I wasn't working on the whole book, was breaking it down by doing not only a cluster and affinity, but doing ethnography. So more of a cultural study and understanding of who this audience is. And this is an ongoing research. This is not completed. But from that also came with my concern about how data is being collected, which is why now I'm part of Data Ethics for All. And we did a hackathon and we worked on taking out the biases from AI. And this is something I'm really passionate about, creating pillars. And once again, it's industry and academics. So that is what I did. Thank you.